guys, and welcome to the Talkoffame podcast. I'm super excited to introduce you guys to Cassandra Pinataro. She's a 23-year-old pop singer-songwriter, professional opera singer, Master's of Music Business graduate of Berklee College of Music, Bachelor of Classical Vocal Performance major graduate of New England Conservatory, vocal teacher, and Miss America title holder, currently reigning as Miss Music City 2023. Cassandra is currently creating a new genre she likes to call popera. Blending her backgrounds of opera and pop music, she has created a new song that even top industry executives they never heard before. And she just came out with a new song on January 5th called Queen of Every Night. Cassandra's pop career began in 2021 with monthly releases of singles leading up to the release of her first EP, Made for Me, and was followed by multiple singles such as Meanwhile in My Head, Only Christmas Witch, which features Brian Ruby, three women in her sap girl pop anthem, Highlight on the Reel, which encourages others to take the veil off social media's highlight reel and look after their mental health. Since then, she has released Next Christmas, Business Casual, and Love You Back. The latter being a new mental health and campaign. But Cassandra, thank you so much for coming on and taking the time to film this episode. I appreciate it so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So on January 5th, you came out with a new song called Queen of Every Night. Like, what was kind of like your sort of inspiration for that song?
So there were quite a few things that inspired this. This one's actually been years in the making. I had this idea of blending opera and pop. You'll see sometimes it's done with like hip hop and opera or whatever else, but I wanted to do something that had like true mainstream potential, and would blend this opera element into pop. So think like you have as subgenres of pop, you have dark pop, you have dream pop, you have whatever else. This one's kind of like operatic pop. And I wanted to take the Queen of the Night aria, one, because it's just this iconic Mozart aria from the Magic Flute. It's the most famous one that the Queen of the Night sings in the opera. And it's something that I personally have sung before. I'm a professional coloratura soprano. So it was something that's near and dear to me. And actually, I have my first professional role in an opera coming up for the Magic Flute. So it's really kind of an all encompassing piece
Mhm.
for me personally. And the song, it's called Queen of the Night. And I'm trying with this new genre to kind of have a parallel between the actual opera piece, or aria rather, versus my song. So, what is that crossover? Well, the actual piece in the opera is this mom who's like really concerned about her daughter, and it's this very wrathful song. I'm like, I'm not a mom. I don't know how I'm going to make a parallel with this. It wasn't really working out that way. So we kind of scratched that idea and instead went for this very female empowerment anthem vibe for the song. So that's why it's Queen of Every Night. Like you shouldn't just have to feel like only sometimes you can be confident or only sometimes you can shine forward. You can wake up every single day and just feel like you are the baddest thing that has hit the face of this earth, and there should be nothing wrong with that. And so we got writing, and it was honestly tough sometimes because it was so bold. And I was like, oh my gosh, is it too much? Like, are my friends gonna think that I've just gone off the deep end? But they all seem to like it so far, and they all think it's a pretty fun jam. So that's been good.
Yeah, it definitely is. Like, I don't know why, but wake up in the morning, I'm like, okay, let's listen to some opera, people. Like, come on, pop in opera. I'm like, this is my sort of thing.
I
But
love it.
with opera, like, do you kind of prefer doing opera or do you prefer doing pop music? Like, I know both of them are two opposite things from each other.
Oddly enough, I love them both so much, it's why I blended them. I really can't choose a favorite. I mean, I've studied opera for the past 12, 13 years now. So it's really ingrained in me, and it's what I've studied. It's what I intend to keep doing. But I've also been an avid pop lover since the day I was old enough to understand what music really was. I mean, I love the simplicity, but also the lyrical depth that you can find. I loved how digestible it is. And I think for me, being able to not necessarily choose one or the other, but kind of do both at the same time. I know that's not really an answer to the question, but it's kind of just where I've landed. I love them both too much.
Oh, I totally get that. Like, who are some of your favorite pop singers? I'm curious. Is as an avid pop lover, I'm like, I have to hear this.
Big Ariana Grande fan. And a big
Oh,
Christina
okay.
Aguilera girl. Let me tell you, I love Christina Aguilera's voice, her vibe, just she's fantastic.
Mhm.
Um, I'd say the two of them. I mean, like we all love Whitney Houston. Who doesn't love Whitney Houston?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Just that
True.
vocal. Oh my gosh. Yeah, big vocals girly over here. I
Oh,
appreciate anybody who
beautiful.
can really sing it. Yeah,
Yeah, like,
300.
I honestly been a die-hard Ariana Grande since the day I came out of the womb, to be honest with you.
Yes, I totally understand. That
But
is the same.
like, do you prefer like early 2000s, late 2010s music? Because like, of course, with Ariana Grande, Christina Aguilera, Whitney Houston are kind of like, well, Whitney Houston's like 70s, 80s, 90s, but I know with Ariana Grande, Christina Aguilera, they're like 2000s to 2010s.
Yeah, am a firm believer that the early 2000s had the best music that the pop industry has seen.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we had some good jams in the 2010s, but nothing in like the 90s too. I mean, nothing hit as hard as that time period where we had Christina, Britney, the Black Eyed Peas, then rolling into your Ariana Grande time era. That was such a good time to be a music listener. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm hoping these songs can bring a little bit of that back, a little dancey vibe. I heard it's the summer of EDM coming up in 2024, so I'm looking forward to that.
Oh yeah, same. And also Usher and Chris Brown, they both hit it off in the early 2000s as well.
Yeah, they did. DJ got us falling in love. It was a bop
Oh,
of a
I know. Like, did you see Usher's performing at the 2024 Super Bowl?
yes, I did. I can't wait for that. Although I felt super old because my little cousins who are much younger than me were like, there's some guy named I think his name was Usher. I'm like, oh, how do you not know who Usher is? I felt so
I
old in that
know.
moment. I
Like
couldn't
my
believe it.
sister, like she's a big R&B fan, and she practically raised me on R&B, like Usher, Chris Brown, like Missy Elliott, Sierra. Like she practically raised me on those 2000s hits. Practically was kind of forced to listen to those type of music most of the time.
Yes. Yes,
Like
it's
who
such an
doesn't want to
amazing,
listen to those music? To be quite honest with you, like who doesn't?
right? I know it.
But like how did like your pop career start? Because of course, like I know you love music, opera, pop, but like how did you kind of start your pop career?
Yeah, so
Or
I
opera,
was,
pop, whatever you want to put it.
yeah, it was, so opera I started studying long ago, like 10 years old, 11 years old is when I started really training and working I used to do national circuits and compete and everything else. I went to school for it. Okay. Pop was different. I listened to pop all the time. I listened to pop more than opera, quite frankly. But it was during the pandemic, and I had to go home from school. I was studying opera up at New England Conservatory in Boston, and my parents had just moved to Florida for like a little bit. And I went ahead and moved down with them just during the pandemic time. And it was kind of then I started realizing that I loved opera, but I also wanted to tell my own story, and I wanted to songwrite in a pop genre. And so I actually started writing over Zoom with people that I knew here in Nashville and friends of mine. And actually, one of the writers on Queen of Every Night, Brian Ruby, a good friend of my brother's, they used to play college baseball together. And he's the one who kind of brought me into Nashville. So we started Zoom writing. And then during the pandemic, we'd take our COVID tests and put on our masks. And I'd drive up to Nashville and start recording in the studio. Uh, and that's kind of how it began. It started with Zoom writes, driving to Nashville, making it happen, hitting TikTok as hard as I could,
Totally.
and doing the social media hustle. And that was good. It was really tough when I went back to school for senior year to keep that momentum going. But once I graduated, I moved directly to Nashville, and it was the best decision I've made in a long time. Like just being so close to the team that I have and building that on the ground, it's been really beneficial. Yeah.
And like with Nashville, it's such a big home to music, well, and country music as well. It's a big country music place, but in general, Nashville is just overall such a big like music place that you will see basically if you like go downtown Nashville, you'll see artists like everywhere you go performing at different
Oh yeah.
places.
Oh yeah. That cover gig scene is huge here. But it's funny because you see a lot of the cover gig players, but you don't see as much of the songwriting, the publishing, everything else, just because it's a much quieter scene.
Oh,
But it's close
really?
by. Yeah, like the whole street that everybody sees online with all the big lights and the flashy bars, we call that Broadway, but a lot of people think that's Music Row. Music Row is actually an entire street of what looks like just regular houses, but it's what everybody goes into for songwriting sessions and publishing sessions, and you could drive right by it and never know you're on top of, you can drive down it and you'll see Smack Records and Big Loud, but right next to it are places that look like homes, so you don't necessarily see you don't realize what you're looking at as you drive by, but it's a booming music scene here. It's really
That's
amazing.
crazy. I have to put that on the list when I go to Nashville at some point. That
Yeah.
seems like so interesting. Like I didn't even know they had that in Nashville. That's so interesting.
Oh yeah. That's where all the music really happens. The cover bands and gigs, it's kind of how we all pay our rent. And then we go to the songwriting houses in the morning and go write our
Go in the
there.
morning, then play at night. Like,
Yep, exactly.
but like for Queen of Every Night, like was there kind of like a hidden meaning in the song when you wrote it?
I think the closest thing to a hidden meaning was really trying to understand these parallels between the songs, right? So we have the beginning motive that you'll hear that's this little iconic part of the piece that so many people are familiar with. And so we have that actually looped throughout, and you'll hear that in the background vocals. But even the descending line of the chorus, the part that's, I'm the queen of your heart when I come up in the bar, that's all taken directly from, I shouldn't say it's taken directly from it, but it's more influenced by another section of that same opera piece. So the whole song, if you really listen to it, you can see we tried to create these parallels in melody. In meaning, of course, there's the parallel of Queen of the Night versus Queen of Every Night. Um, but I think the biggest thing for, if you're looking for kind of that behind the scenes look at the song, the day I stepped up to the mic, my producer Adam Sickler looked at me and was like, "Are you comfortable singing this?" It's like, what do you mean? He's like, you just look afraid to like get on the mic and really spit this out. It's like, well, honestly, maybe a little. I just feel like it's such a bold song. Am I too cocky? Am I too much? Right? And
Hmm.
he's like, well, I don't know what to tell you because if you want to sing this song, you're gonna have to find the right energy to get it going. Um, and I think for me, it was just in that moment that I kind of stopped myself and realized, I advocate so much online for people loving themselves completely, for people having fearless authenticity, right? And being authentically fearless. And it was a kind of a moment I had to realize that I was getting scared of exactly what I advocate for others not to get scared of.
Hmm.
Uh, and that's when I realized, no, like I just need to get up there and do this. And this isn't just for me. This is for anybody and everybody that's having a bad day and
Hmm.
needs to just get that confidence booming again. And I was talking to my producer about this. He's like, good, great, now sing it. And actually, that entire first verse you hear was my one take, one time through, first time I ever sang it on the mic. That's exactly how I sang it into the mic with really nothing done to it. So it's kind of a cool little backstory there that I like to
That's
share.
insane. Like I honestly like relate to that so bad because like when I advocate for something on social media, whether it's like mental health or whatever it
Right.
is, like sometimes when I'm feeling what I'm saying or doing, I'm just like, why am I feeling this if I'm doing the exact same thing or posting about this subject on social media? Like how can not that I'm stupid, but I'm like, why am I thinking about this when I'm doing the exact same thing for other people?
Right. Right. Well, it's like why you start to realize just how human you really are, I think, in this
Exactly.
moment, which is
Yeah.
really hard. But it's also, I think, in a way, it's kind of a nice moment where you sit back and you're like, yeah, that's exactly why I'm doing this, right? Like, I'm not 100,000% of the time. Trust me, I have so many haters on my Instagram commenting all about this song, how they don't like this, they don't like that, whatever else. And that's really tough. But then to go back and listen to my song and be like, nope, I'm just gonna keep singing it. I'm the queen of every night, and you can keep commenting, but I'm gonna keep posting about it. And it's
Yeah,
just
I know. Like this
find
is
it.
annoy them. They're like, okay, I'm gonna keep posting. You can keep hating, but it's never gonna stop me from loving this song, no matter what you say.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm like, let's just keep the confidence flowing.
Exactly. But how is this song kind of different from other songs that you wrote? Because I know you like to make opera songs. So how does this song kind of different from the other songs that you wrote?
So the other songs I've done up until now have just been straightforward pop. So those ones have been straight pop. There's no opera in them. So this is the first of its kind. Now there's a lot more of its kind coming. Uh, I think what's different about this versus other popera things that I have created was actually what I wrote my thesis on for my master's at Berkeley. And that was all about what subgenre of pop works for this operatic pop idea or pop or whatever you want to call it. And I tried a very true pop, so something more similar to 1989 Taylor Swift vibes,
Hmm.
versus this, which kind of gives you more thank you next Ariana, Billie Eilish, whatever. It's much darker in subgenre. Uh, and we tested both back to back, and there was an overwhelming preference toward this dark pop subgenre. And so I think that's kind of what's a bit different is this song has informed what my music's going to look like for the next good bit of time, for the foreseeable future, as far as I know. Yeah.
I know, right? Like even with there's like opera music, with opera music, it's not as popular as it was kind of back then, when our like grandparents were growing up, Now it's mostly like rap, country, pop, hip hop, like it's mostly those, but to come like with pop and combining both of them will kind of I feel like it would make a difference in 2024, of course, releasing kind of combining those. Because of course opera is not as popular as it was back then, like years ago.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much research out right now showing how Gen Z and millennials listen to significantly less classical music than our older generations. And the
Hmm.
problem is, a lot of people don't want to touch opera or the classical arts. They want to leave it exactly as it is, not realizing that, what does that mean when the older generations get a lot older and these millennials, Gen Z, are getting older and still not listening to opera. They're still not listening to classical music. What happens
Hmm.
to your audience? It's you can fight for that art form to stay exactly the same forever, but if you're looking at an empty theater, your bills aren't getting paid. You're not filling up the audience. Whereas if you're starting to slowly sprinkle in some opera into pop music and pique the interest of these younger listeners, I'm not creating an opera. I'm not creating like the solution to saving classical
Hmm.
music, right?
Hmm.
But to have that little tiny sprinkle of influence just feeding into the mainstream media, I do believe it has the opportunity to maybe spark some interest where we do get a few more people in those audience chairs for theater companies, opera companies, et cetera, et cetera. So
Hmm.
that's the hope. My hope is that it starts a little movement forward for the classical music world.
Yeah, and I loved what you said before. Is that like even with like as the older generations are getting older, like Gen Z millennials are getting older, like once all everyone passes on, the last opera singing is getting less popular by the day, and no one will go to the theater. What it says say is New York or Los Angeles or whatever hosts opera that's popular, and it is really just as we get older by the day, the less popular it seems like the opera will get by the Gen Z millennials. Because of course, with Gen Z millennial we didn't really grow up with opera. We kind of grew up what everyone was listening to nowadays. Like maybe it's like Taylor Swift, Justin Bieber, like some people like that are so popular that we probably like, oh, we all listen to Taylor Swift nowadays and how popular she is. Like no
Right.
one can really think about like, okay, what's something can we listen to from when our grandparents were growing up that we might like opera.
Right. And I think too, a lot of people want to make the claim of, well, they're not going to opera companies because it's too expensive, right?
Hmm.
Well, an average opera ticket right now is $65, which no, can the average student just like every weekend dish out $65? No. Some places have student tickets and that's great. But the real thing is, how much was a Taylor Swift concert ticket this past year? So money is
Oh,
not the problem, right? Like
yeah.
money's not the problem. If they want to go, they will go.
Hmm.
So what is it? It's probably what they're used to listening to, what they're exposed to, or even know about. Most people that I talk to are like, I didn't even know Nashville had an opera company. I didn't even know opera was around still. Um, so it's just kind of nice to gently spark this influence. And I think a lot of people in the classical world might not realize how much our industry needs this. But hopefully it'll come around. I don't know.
Hopefully, maybe 2024 will we change. I don't know. But
One can
last
hope.
Yeah, I hope so. But in 2023, you were Miss Music City. Like, how did you kind of train for Miss Music City? Was this like your first pageant, or did you do pageants before?
So I had only done two pageants before. I competed for Miss Boston on a whim, actually. It was about a month before the competition happened. And I was living in Boston, going to school up there. And my vocal teacher said, "Hey, I think you might be good at this. And there's a talent portion, and I think that could be good for you. Just try it." And so I did all the necessary steps and ended up winning, and then went on to Miss Massachusetts and won the talent award there and was first runner up. And then I had graduated school, so I really had no reason to stay in Boston. So I moved here to Music City or Nashville rather. And that was when I then competed for Miss Music City and then went and won the talent award at Miss Tennessee and was third runner up there. Uh, so that was kind of my pageant journey per se. Training wise, there's a lot. We have to do interviews, so you've got to be well versed on all of your political events and everything else, and ready to answer them at the drop of a hat. And when I'm really in go mode, it's like all I need is two buzzwords, and I already know what the question's going to be. I mean, it's really intense. 2 to 3 hours per day I would prepare for interview alone. Um, Working out, making sure we're ready for fitness. Fitness isn't so much, we don't, in Miss America, we don't do the swimsuit pageant at all. There's no swimsuit portion. But we do have athletic wear, and we go out and we are allowed to advocate for ourselves in our own fitness journeys or whatever. I'm previously a nationally ranked tennis player, so that's been really exciting to talk about while I was up there. But it's just kind of a fun strut walk. It's very sassy. Then there is the evening gown walk classic. That takes a lot of practice because walking in 7-inch heels in a gown while looking cute and keeping your face nice and smiley the whole time should be an Olympic sport. I mean, that's probably
Oh,
one of the hardest.
mm.
That's my personal least favorite part of competition. For many girls, it's interview. For me, it is walking because I am so terrified of tripping and falling on my face.
That
Um,
would be my biggest fear ever if I was in that
yeah,
position.
it's real tough. And then the last competition portion is talent. So I always sing opera for that, and I make it theatrical and fun. And I think that's part of why I've been so fortunate to win in both Tennessee and Massachusetts. It's just that when people are exposed to it, they love it. They just need to be exposed to the classical arts,
Yeah, like when they see someone singing it, they're like, okay, I'm obsessed. I'm gonna listen to opera now or something.
right?
Like with Taylor Swift, so like for example, like she's singing pop music about a guy that broke her heart, and now people are writing songs about breakups and heartbreaks and releasing it more than ever because of Taylor
Yeah.
Swift.
Yeah. And writing more florid lyrics as well. I think it's so amazing how one artist can influence so many others.
I
Um,
know. And
I'm
she's so
really
popular. Like, did you see all the media attention she's getting with dating Travis Kelce? It's insane.
It really is. It's amazing to me. I just think that she's created such an incredible business. I could talk about that for hours, but
Mhm.
her business model for her entire career is just top notch. I think every single artist could learn so much from her,
Mhm.
and just how she's built her business, how she's built this empire. Really, it's a beautiful thing. We love it. We love to
Oh,
see
right.
it.
Yeah. And like what has kind of been like your favorite part about being Miss Music City? Because of course you get to be it for about a year. I know with COVID, I think you've made like more people like do it longer, but I know like with doing it for about a year, like what has kind of been your favorite part about it?
Oh gosh, there's so many things. I mean, certainly some of the best memories are when I get to go into schools and talk to little kids because we talk all about, mental health and fitness and loving yourselves. But my
Mhm.
favorite part is I finish every presentation with both singing opera and pop. And I'll
Ooh.
start with pop, and they're all like, "Wow, that was really cool. You sang that nice pop song." And then I just like, whoom, here's an opera aria. And it's amazing to see these little kids go, "How are you singing opera? 2 seconds ago, you sounded like a pop singer. What is going on?" And I'll sing to them in French, Italian, German, doesn't matter the language, but they get it and they're giggling and they're laughing and it's so fun.
Mhm.
So that's definitely some of my favorites. Uh, Favorite appearance so far, though, was definitely I got to sing the national anthem for the Mexican consul on Mexican Independence Day down at the Nashville Symphony, and that was really just such an honor, and certainly not on my 2023 bingo card. I mean, I never would have imagined that would get to happen for me. So that was really wonderful. Yeah.
Like, what was like your like overall kind of advocacy for? Because I know like a lot of pageants they do kind of advocacy or what they advocate for like as a pageant or Miss Pennsylvania or something.
Yeah, so my we call them like service projects or your initiative, and mine was a community initiative basically. So you go in and you talk to different people. Mine was called Feed Your Future, and so I would talk about how do you feed your mind, body, your soul, basically how do you fuel every part of yourself. So mind being your mental health, your body being what nutrients do you need to make sure that you are healthy and strong, your fitness, how are you going ahead and working out right, making sure that you're getting the proper nutrients that you need to have your ideal health in that regard. And then also feed your community. And that's where I would go in and do volunteer work. So I worked at so many food shelters. I fed over 450,000 homes in the past 2 years, and that was really, really exciting. I think getting to go into the food pantries, see and understand people, talk with these people too. I think that was one of those powerful things was realizing so many people that come into a food shelter, yeah, they do need food, but they really just want to have a conversation. These people are homeless and they don't have opportunities to just have a nice conversation with someone and to see how much it brightens their day just to come in and see a smiling face and see somebody that cares and wants to talk was incredibly rewarding throughout that initiative. Yeah.
That is such a great initiative. Of course, with um COVID, of course, it did change a lot of like people with mental health, especially. So with having that initiative, it really changes. Like, okay, what do I do when I'm in that situation with mind and body? Like, how do I take care of myself? Like, I know with a lot of like things that since I know a bunch of people in like that career field or field or say like a lot of people love to do like mental health specifically or book like literacy or something that's going on like right now that's popular and to really do something about mental health 'cause I know with a lot of people are struggling with mental health nowadays everyone deals with it differently and so of course with doing mind and body it's something I actually never like that people could actually do in that pageant field.
Yeah. I think to me, it was a matter of yes, it is important to take care of your mental health, but your mental health will never be where it should be if you're not also taking care of the other things around you, right? Like, how are your personal relationships? How is your physical health? Are you being active or are you going to therapy but sitting on the couch all day, right? Like, those don't work hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. So, helping people see that it's a fully encompassing solution to do mind and body and
Mhm.
environment for that matter is really, really valuable. I think it helps some, especially the little kids. It was really rewarding to see how it helped them.
Definitely. Like, do work with little kids. Like, I'd be like, I'm never leaving this.
It's a beautiful thing. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I love them all dearly.
All right. And I want to thank you so much for jumping on for an interview. I know you're a very busy person right now, but I really appreciate your time to jump on for a couple of minutes. And, like all your work and everything you're doing is amazing and making a difference in opera. I definitely, next time I'm in Nashville, I definitely have to see a gig. I just need to see one. But thank you everyone for listening. I hope everyone enjoyed this episode. And thank you so much, Cassandra, for jumping on. It was great chatting with you.
Thank you so much. It was great chatting with you too, and
Thank-
hope to see you in Nashville sometime soon.
Yeah, same here. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you everyone for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.